At least you'll have that. All right, let me connect a new session. Okay, so I'm just downloading the file. So usually why I do that, because again, it is all been downloaded from Oracle website. Everything is from Oracle website, but I'm just keeping a copy with myself so that I don't go to Oracle all the time, accept certificates and all those things.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing to remember is database 12c works with both. So it works with 11g as well as with 12c WebLogic. So that's one good thing with this one. While 11g, again, 11g works with both, with 11g and 12c, but again, there are some conditions. So 11g doesn't work with all 12c versions. Even in 12c, you have different versions. So it works with initial versions, but not with the other versions where you have domain partitions and other things. So just for
Okay.
your information, in case you ever find that, then that's the problem. That particular, and for that you should always go for compatibility metrics. Using that, you can find out whether it's been supported or not supported.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so this is being done, and I can remove this because this is 3 gigs and I don't want to lose on a space. Let's see how much I have. Oh, sorry, bad command. I have around 11 GB, which should be okay, but let me just remove what I don't need. So RF, I don't need this. 14 GB, yeah, that's fine. Still okay. Even this is done. So this WebLogic installation is done. I can remove it now because I can always get it back. That's fine. Removed. What else I can remove? Let me remove this one. And we don't even need this. Okay. Pretty good. So I have around 16 GB, which should be okay for TP installation. Although it's not huge, but at least for installation, that should be enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and install it. So first we'll get into this. And then there is a file called run installer, and this is how we run. And this is generic one. So, okay, so there is a problem. It says swap space is 0. So I'll have to increase my swap space. Let me quickly do that. Let me see, how much is that? Okay, so my swap is 0. Okay, and let's see if I have a swap file. Okay, so I'll have to create a file system. Okay, then let's do it. So how much is required? So it says, okay, so 150, just 150 is enough. So 0 MB available, 150 MB is required. So I'll create maybe, let's say, about 1 GB should be okay. So let me get the command from the Google right away. Okay, so creating swap space file system. and let me go to adding swap space. Okay, so I'm not going to do the volume, but instead I'll just add a volume. Yeah, swap file. This is what we do. So let's go and do that. Okay, so that's about, oh, this is a 67 MB. Let me change it. $671 MB, that should be fine. Okay. And then that's being done. And swap on. And I'm adding an entry into fstab file. That is important because if I don't do that, next time I log in, it won't be there. So it's better I make an entry here. So that is available all the time. That's it. Okay, now let's see. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. 7, 3. Okay, seems like file is not added yet. Okay. Oh, there is a file system. Let me do it one more time. So this is done. Okay, so it is already mounted. Okay, let me connect one more time. The new connection. Okay, so I need to boot it once. Let me do init 0. Init 0. And let's start it. Okay, that should be done. Okay, so it's connected. Good. Let me try and run it. Okay, so for some reason it's not showing it here, but yeah, anyways, it's being 640 MB, which we did. So all tests are passed. It should be running now. Here it is. All right, and let me check. It should be showing it now. That's surprising. It's not showing it for some reason. Usually it should show here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have not added the mount point. That's fine. Oracle database is not supported on this operating system. Okay, that's fine. That's because the operating system which I have, Amazon Linux, Oracle doesn't understand that. But if you're on Red Hat or some other one, that should be fine. But that's okay. That's something I know. Okay, so there is two options whenever you install databases with Oracle. It allows you to create and configure. If you choose this, it will set up everything for you. Otherwise, you just install it and later you can configure it yourself. Or if you want to upgrade it, you can do that as well. So we want database to be running, so we'll just use this. Okay. Now, because we are doing this on Linux box, I'll be choosing this. Otherwise, we could have just gone with desktop class, which is more like when you run it on laptop and your desktop, you want it less load on the server. Okay, this is where it works. So this is something you should know. And that will be important even when you do your JDBC. Okay, and let's highlight that. So when you make JDBC connection, you have some choices. So JDBC allows you to make different connections. So one of them is called generic. Generic is when you're not sure what to choose, you just go with generic. Or especially for single instances, you go always with generic. When it is rack, you choose grid link or multi-data source. So that's something you remember it for now. When we do it, we will see that. But yes, that's more like a formula which we use. So when it is generic, when it's a single node instance, single instance database installation, we always go with generic. You provide all your database details, you connect your database, test connection, and that's it. When it is rack, you go with either grid link and multi-source. But again, there is a difference. So you can go for grid link only when your database itself is grid link enabled. If it is not, then it doesn't make sense. And then it will create problems for DBA, not for you, but for DBA, and then your connections will drop. So you need to make sure that if it is not grid link, you go for multi-data source. But that will come as a part of your discussion with your DBAs, or management will know beforehand that how database is being set up based on your SOW document. Okay, but rack can also be on one node. So rack can be multi-node and one node. So rack is nothing but it actually creates cluster of database. Like we have created this cluster for managed server, it can have cluster for database. So mainly it will have two or more instances. So if something goes wrong with one of the instances, other instance will be keep on running. So database will never be down, your connection will never drop, and that's the advantage of your rack. When you have single, that means it is installed on a single server. If your server goes down or database goes down for some reason, you are disconnected and you can't make connections anymore. That's the advantage. People prefer rack. So in an industry, they will certainly go for rack, but in your case, anyway, your all infrastructure itself is really on the old era, so you will definitely not have that, because rack is in the new configurations, or they may have it if they had some DBAs. So we are going to do with single one for now, because a rack requires more space, memory to get everything done. But single you can do with the minimal configuration as well. Did I bypass anything? Yeah. So that's nothing but typical in advanced installation. Advanced is nothing but it allows you to select some feature yourself. Okay. This is where it is trying to install. So app is fine. I'll just give it some name. I'll say it Oracle. So that looks a bit better. Okay. So what I want, enterprise or standard edition. That's fine. Let's go with enterprise edition. Group is ADM. Yeah, that's fine. That will be ADM. Okay, so password. So I'll be giving some password as welcome one. Let's keep it that, so that we don't have different passwords across. Okay, this one is only available with 12c. They have something called container database, because it's pluggable database. It's a handy tool, but it also creates trouble. And sometimes many applications are not supported on this. So you have to remember that. We are ignoring this for now because it has some different set of rules of which we need to work with pluggable database. Inventory name, again, I'll keep it to, I should keep it to EC2, not ADM, so that we don't get any issues later on. Yep. That way our life becomes easier. For now, so you can choose this depending upon the group name your organization has decided for installation. And that's it. So we are going to install this database for now. That's going to take some time. Should be completing. So okay. Most of the time with databases, what problem you get is with libraries. So if your operating system is not ready, there are some certain set of libraries, 15, 20 libraries, which should be available before you install your database. So if that's not there, definitely you can't proceed with the database. And you, especially with Oracle databases, if it is sending you any warnings or errors, don't proceed. Because even if you complete your installation, it will fail somewhere else. It will not work the way you want. So that's something you should remember. In my case, I had everything. We have already done some of the installations. So I have all the files, binaries in place. No issues at all. So it's just installing. So any questions on this? This is something you can do, right? That's not so difficult.
Yeah, I understand this.
But at least you're seeing it for the first time, you will feel, yeah, it's easy. So you can certainly do that.
Yes.
And also, like, you're already working in IT, you know that everything is easy IT world until you do it right. If you do it wrong way, easier thing becomes bad, right?
Correct. How to upgrade WebLogic and rollback?
Okay, so when you say rollback, people typically don't roll back. What they do is they will always have a backup. So whenever you have plans to upgrade, what they do it, you always take a backup. Okay, and I will show you that. So even when we do a patching, probably we'll try doing a patch. So if we try to apply a patch, even for the patching, you should do a backup. The best way is any changes, any configuration changes you are making, always take a backup. And I'll tell you that also comes as a part of your backup and recovery strategy. For now, you have just asked, so I'll tell you. So when you do backup, there are some cases when you should consider taking backup. So one of them is patching. Another one is domain extension, okay,
Okay.
and upgrade. So these are the three scenarios which you will do. If you're working with log file and small change and all, that's fine, okay. And if you're even taking a backup have two strategies. So you do backup for WebLogic home or domain home. Now, depending upon what you are trying to do, if you're just changing some files, okay, within a domain, you don't even have to do domain home. You can just take a backup of individual file. This all comes as a part of your backup strategy. Actually, I'm just giving you an idea for now. So you can just take
Okay.
individual file, take a backup. That's it. But mainly, whenever you take a backup, you do between WebLogic home and domain home. When do you decide WebLogic home? When you are affecting your JDK. Okay, so if there is an upgrade or into your JVM or Java, you definitely have to take a backup of WebLogic home, because if you don't do that, and if Java get upgraded somehow or it get patched, then it may not support your WebLogic, because that will be out of compatibility. So that's the time you should take your WebLogic home. Domain home is especially probably you are trying some changes within your domain. Maybe you're trying to do some configuration changes, which you think may hamper your domain. So it will just kill your domain, but not the installation. So your WebLogic installation will be intact, but your domain can get corrupted. Okay, so at that time, you just take a backup of your domain. In case your domain get corrupted, you just bring it back. Okay, but like you said, in case you're doing migration or upgrade, so migration and upgrade more like a similar, they come similarly. So what you mean by migration is that maybe you are in 11g version, okay, and you are getting into 12c. Okay, the first thing is whatever you do, because you are actually changing everything. So your installation is going to change, your WebLogic installation is changing, your JDK is changing, and your domain home gonna change as well. So backup is primary. Why? Because something goes wrong. You have migrated successfully, but your application is not running the way it should run, and it has happened. Okay, in Oracle world, it's very nasty world, so it does happen. So if it doesn't happen that way, what you do, okay, what you try to do, it didn't work, let it be. Remove that, and what you had, just bring it over again. That's how you do it. So whenever I say rollback, it's because you always have a backup, and you whatever you have done, just clean it up and then push whatever backup you have. But upgrade is a bit different. So you need to make sure that you have both the installation, and then you upgrade from the first one, the previous one, and then upgrade it to the new one. But again, for that, when you do upgrade on the WebLogic side, you're only doing upgrade for your WebLogic installation and your domain. You are not updating on database side. So you do need to make sure that your database get updated as per your WebLogic as well. You may not be doing it, but then you need to plan it. You need to coordinate with DBA to get that done. Make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's not that easy. Only thing is you need to make a procedure for it. Okay, so these are the two scripts which I should run. So let me do that quickly. And they're root one, so I have to run with sudo. Okay, so first one is done. Second one is done as well. All right, let's go ahead and complete it. So installation is complete. Now it will just configure. So it will start Oracle Database Configuration Assistant, which is also called ODCA. So if you just do the installation, it will do till here. Execute or do scripts, your installation will be completed. And when you go and run configure, you are actually doing these three steps. The later one, the database configuration, where you run Oracle Net and database configuration assistant will run. DBCA /DBCA is what you're going to run, and it will configure your database the way you want it. But here we are doing both of them in single step. And this is important because in case you are working in office and maybe you just want to create a replica of that at your home and you want to practice it, you should do this database WebLogic installation, and then you can try those things at home, because that's how you learn. That's the best way to learn, actually.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that may take some time because configuration, once it is done, everything is done, we should be good. And your database will start running here. Oh, okay. Did I miss something? No. Okay, anyways, maybe it was waiting for that. Okay, so first one was ran successfully. Change group owner to EC2 user. Okay, that was fine. Script was completed. Second one, I did not run it completely, but now it is done. So create owner tab. Let me just validate if everything is in place. Yes, it is. Okay, that's there. Okay, that is also there. All right, core. Okay, that anyways is there. Fine, so it should be good. I see all the files, and this is 95% done. So once it is done 5% ahead, we should be good. Okay, in the meantime, let me start our WebLogic as well, because our database is gonna complete soon. Okay, so this is running, and I should get the IP and run it. This is 97% done, should be done soon. Okay, tell me this, why it says it is not associated with this one, or node manager is not reachable? Why does it say that? So I'm trying to start this MS1 and MS2, and it says node manager is not reachable.
Might be stopped.
Yes, that's a good answer. It is stopped. And how do I check that? Uh, okay, so two ways to check it. Okay, first of all, what is stopped? It's a node manager, right? So one way to check it is from the back end. How you can just do ps-ef and just grab for node, because it has a name called node manager, so it will show you. Okay, I don't see anything, that means it's not there. Otherwise, maybe if you are not sure with the commands, then you can check it here under environments. You have machine options, right? So if you click on machines, there is a node manager nm, and it was showing you the node manager name. It was saying nm was not reachable because we gave it a name nm. If you give it some other name, it will show that name. Most of the companies, what they do, they just give host name, which is not a good practice, but they do that. Now here, when I click on nm, again there is another option called node manager. Sorry, not this one, monitoring. When you come to monitoring, it will show you here. So when it says inactive or any other status, usually it says inactive, that means it is not running. It should be reachable. And why does it do that? Because whenever I'm stopping and starting my servers every day. That means anything it's running on this, it's stopping every day. So that's expected. So let me start node manager. Otherwise, what I'll have to do is I'll have to start my managed server from here. and this is the location where we have scripts for node manager. Sorry, my bad. Okay, let me tell you one more thing about node manager, which sometimes while setting it up you may find issues. So when you check node manager here, what it tells you, that type is SSL, right? So it's SSL right here. Now even on your, yeah, so when you see SSL here, even on your file it should be updated as SSL. And which file is that? Your node manager.properties file. So if I'll open this, this is the file. So if you open this file, let me clear it. So it says secure listener, right? Which says true. When it says true, that means it is SSL enabled. Now, you may find out that sometimes your company is not using SSL. They don't have certificates and they don't want to use demo. So they'll tell you, no, I don't want to go with SSL, or just go with plain, without SSL. What you do then, you need to make two changes. First of all, you need to change it to plain. Okay, you will do this and save it and activate changes. Other thing you do is secure listener, set it to false. So these are the two things you need to do if you ever want to change it from SSL to non-SSL or non-SSL to SSL. So that's something you should remember. And all other node manager related properties are defined here, like your domains, your Java home, authentication enable, everything. So but these are the important ones. And when you set up for different servers, different hosts, then a listen address is what you use for them. Okay, anyways, that was the quick info on this. I'm not changing it for now, but if you ever have a requirement, you have to do that. Okay, so that's being said. Now node manager should be up. Let me check status once, and let's take it from both ends. Reachable here, so we are good. And let's check it from here as well. Like we discussed that we can check it from here. So let me run the same command again. Right, so I see that weblogic.node manager is running. So fine, I checked it from both ends. We can go ahead and start our managed service. Now, why do I need that? Because I'll be creating a JDBC connection. So managed service should be up and running because I'll be deploying them onto those two managed services. Like we deploy our deployments, we also deploy these JDBC connections because our application will be using it. Okay, so this is done. The installation of Oracle database was successful. That is good. And on Unix machine, I can check it using command pmon. So I'll grab pmon. Okay, so ORCL is running, which is good. Okay, then everything is fine. Once this gets started, we'll go ahead. Okay, it should be starting in short a while. Let's go ahead and create JDBC connection. So your JDBC, they are all services. So we have looked at deployments, we have looked at environments, so we have looked at servers, cluster. These are all, these two options are only for coherence, machines for node manager, and these are startup and shutdown process if you want to include. These are for work managers if you have to create additional, otherwise you don't touch them ever. Now, migratable targets is part of your clustering. So if you ever want to migrate your clusters, just in case something goes wrong, you can do that. Here it is being set up by default as a part of your cluster. Now there is also an option which is called virtual host. This is nothing but when you want to give a different name to your IPs, instead of IP, you want to give it a name, you can include that. But yeah, again, companies don't use it until they are very web focused and all. But if they use it, you can do it. It's not that difficult. So what we are going to do is we are right now trying to connect our application to a database. For that, all those things comes under services. So under services, we have messaging, which we are going to discuss later. So we'll leave it for now. Right now, we are working with data sources. So when you create database connection, from WebLogic to database, you actually create data source. So to create it, let's click on log and edit. Now, when I click on new, there are three options like I told you. So generic data source, a grid link data source, and multi-data source. So these two options are for RAG database. The installation we did is for single data source. So let's choose generic one and let's give it a name. So I'll give it simple name DS1, and you can give it any logical name depending upon why you're creating it. If you, let's say you're connecting it to Fred connection, you can name it something like that. Okay, anything. So, and DS name has nothing to do with that. If you give a different DS name, nothing to do with application. That's only for your WebLogic reference. Now, JNDI name is certainly has to do with your application. So this name could be anything because it's a naming which you have given. Okay, and it is good that you give a logical name so that it matches your application. But JNDI name is certainly should match your application. If this is wrong, then you can't connect to your application. So this is something developer should be providing you, or whenever they will give you information that it has to connect to this application name, these are the JDBC names. So for example, if you're connecting to application called Fin, which is for finance, let's say, you will say JDBC/Fin or something like that. And then you will choose what kind of databases. It supports more than 15 databases which you can use. So let's go with Oracle. We have installed Oracle, so let's go ahead with that. And with WebLogic, people do prefer Oracle because both of them are from Oracle vendor. Okay, now there are some options while trying to connect. So you can see that instance connections, a rack, service instances, service connections, and then again, this is thin XA. So there are thin XA and non-XA. So when you want your transactions to be two-way, okay, you use XA. When you just want your transactions, which doesn't take part in two-way commit, you choose thin one. So, but this again, you don't decide yourself. This applications provides it to you. So applications tells you that whether their application is being designed for that. Okay, so if it is designed for that, you will choose XA connection. If not, you will choose non-XA connection. So mainly you call it XA and non-XA connection. In this case, we don't have any application as such. We're just going to test it that our this thing works smooth. So we'll choose instance connection for now. If it is rack, you can go with this. If it is grid link, you can go with service connections. All right, so let's go with this. For now, even if you create XA connection, it doesn't matter because we are just going to test it for now. We don't have an application, so it will not create any issues. When you actually have an application which doesn't supports XA transaction, you will get issues then. Okay, now when you create this, it will give you these three options. Now for thin client or non-XA connections, by default, it uses one phase commit. For XA connections, it uses two-phase commit, and that's the difference. So if your application is not being designed for two-phase commit, you should not use XA. You should always go with non-XA. Now here you have some options between whether this should support global transactions or not. Usually, if your instance non-XA can sometimes take part in XA, you choose this option. Okay, and you can read the documentation about XA and non-XA. But it's like just in terms of transaction, which database actually supports. And if database supports it, your application should be designed to support that. If it doesn't, then they will tell you that, the developers has not designed in a way that it can support XA transaction. But if there is a connection which sometimes can take part in XA transactions, you should choose support global transaction. But if not, or if it ever uses one of these, you can just ignore it, and then this gets disabled. So whenever, if your connection can use any one of them, you choose this. But most of the time, you will be using either one-phase commit or logging last resource, or maybe emulate two-phase commit. So it actually doesn't do it, but trying to emulate it, you choose it. So it's better you go ahead with this, but if not required, you will get instructions for that. Let's go with next. If you haven't got instruction for that, just choose it. There is no problem with that. Okay, this is where your actual things comes in. Okay, so how do I get the details of what database I create? Let me do TNS ping. Okay, it's gone. DNS ping ORCL. Oh, okay. It should be running in ps-ef grep underscore p1. Okay, I got it. Why it's not working? Because we haven't set up the database installation on our path. Right, so it's not being here. JDK is there, but that has to be added. So where did we install it? We installed it right here. Oracle. And then should be product. CD bin. Okay, so let me include that in the file. And let me give it Oracle home. And I'll include it here just before that. Dollar Oracle, let's go home slash bin colon and run this file. Okay, and let's check now. TNS ping or CL. Okay, so command works, but it says something, some problem with that. Okay, ls and rctl status. Let me check if it is running all fine. Okay, it's not running for some reason. Start, let's try that. Okay, so seems to be some problem with this database installation though. TNS message not found. Let's start Aura env, and our database name is ORCL. Oracle home is, where is the path? Okay, so that's being done. Just running it one more time. Okay. Okay, database looks good. Okay, so let's try giving the database name is ORCL. Host name is something I need to give, which should be this one. Database user, oh, what did I give? Okay, I just forgot the username which I gave. Let's see. I guess should be this. Password I gave was welcome one. So it will go to create a connection and it will check if everything is fine. It will just say yes. Otherwise, it will complain that it's not the right connection. Right. So invalid username and password. I actually have forgotten the username. So I'm doubtful what the username is. So ORCL, was that the username?
I think admin, right? Admin.
No, I did not give that. ADM was there and then I changed it. I changed it back to EC2 user, but that was group. That was not the user. I think it was ORCL dot EC2 dot internal or something. Let's see. Otherwise, we can find it out. That's not a problem. Python. Okay, I can check it. Okay, so there should be something similar which I should have seen somewhere. This is that's surprising. So first of all, user which I'm trying to connect is not there. Okay, let me do one thing. For now, database username, I think sys should not work, but let me try with sys. Or we have system. Database username. Okay, so for now, I have just used system, which is not right, but just to show it to you, I just did that. So I did create some user. I forgot what it was. I forgot to note it down, which I should have done it. But that again, we can create a user and we can do it ourselves as well. Just create a user with password, create user and username. So let's say what tell identified by tell123. But then again, we need to give access and all those things. So many things. Oh, okay. I did a mistake. I gave a semicolon in between. Okay, so if I created a user, I'll just grant user tell connect grant connect. What else you give to tell? Okay, I hope that should work. So system we have tested. Let's check with that user tell, and we can try with tell 123 tell 123. I've given connect, so that hopefully should work. Okay, so it's saying in username password. What was the user? User was Dell. Okay, this is Dell123. Dell123. Oh, okay, I'll have to create session as well. Grant create session to Dell. Yeah, so that too was one. So we tested with another user. So that doesn't matter. You can create any user. So I just forgot what user we created, but then we created another user, we tested with that. So that tells us that if we have application user that will connect to our application, so we need to provide driver, as I said, depending upon what kind of connection you're making. This will come by default, that will be selected. So we have chosen thin client, so this is the driver. If we choose XA, then it becomes jdbc.xa Oracle driver. We have given the database. This is important. Most of the time you make mistakes here while doing this, and then your database and username should be correct. Now, as soon as you get this test configuration connection, then you're good to go. That means your connection is fine and you will not find issues. Here, it allows you to deploy it to either admin server or cluster. When you do it for your application, you always do in the cluster. When you're working with Fusion middleware, which is 12c, there will be few connections which gets deployed onto admin server by default. For example, if you're working with SOA, OBI, OHS, and all, few connections, the schemas will be deployed onto admin server by default. But something which you create as a part of your application, you always deploy onto your managed server and never on admin server, because admin server is not going to run your application. And that's it. So we did that. This is being done. Activate changes and data sources created. All right, so we'll wrap it up here today, and tomorrow we will see few more things in a data source as well. So for now, we just learned today creating a database and then creating a JDBC connection, testing it, and working with users. But tomorrow we'll see on how to monitor these. So if ever there is a requirement, then how do you monitor and all those things? Okay, I think something is not saved, but that's something we can work out. So I'll do two changes for now. But yeah, so that is what we have to do. So we'll be looking at monitoring it. So if you have to monitor, how to do that.
Okay.
All right. So that, yeah.
One question. Usually, will give the reference to some jar file, right? JDBC driver and all.
Yes, they will. Yeah, by default, they will have everything under JDBC lib.
Okay, okay. For each and every database type, means DB2, SQL Server.
That actually depends upon driver you choose. So, for example, if you choose Oracle, there will be library files for your Oracle connection. If you use, let's say, Informatics or some other one, then it will be. Now, in 12c, it has changed. 12c, you have generic, and that has connection for everyone. Okay. So they have something called type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4 connection within JDBC. And why there are these different ones? Because earlier there were different technologies available, which was very primitive technologies available. So for every database, people had to release their own libraries. For example, if you have Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft will give you a set of libraries which you need to deploy to make connection. Okay. And then type 2 came in, where there was interface in between that. So you don't have to do that. So you can connect to interface, and interface will connect to their library. So you don't have to deploy that. Then type 3 came in, which was more advanced. It was using native Java connection. So there are some differences. I can tell you that if you need that, although that is not required, people used to give that knowledge during 9 and 10. But yeah, if you're interested, I can give you that. It only depends upon by the time you have changed it, over the period of time. But these days you just use the common ones. But yes, there were type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, because at that time vendor, mainly it was with vendor, different database, different vendor, different set of library files were available. That's the difference. And it just shows you how over the period of time it has transitioned from primitive to the advanced one. But we can check on that type 1, type 3, type 4. Not much of difference. But yes, you're right. So it does give you libraries. And these days, you don't have to do that, because whatever comes generic, and it can connect to anything.
Got it.
All right. So, okay, let's connect tomorrow.
Sure.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.